ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the October 27th edition of Beyond the Headlines. My name is Colin, Dowe, and I will serve as the host this evening, facilitating what I anticipate will be a very intriguing conversation. But as I begin every show, thank you so very much for giving up part of your Monday evening to be with us. So whether you tuned in on GBN television, listening on GBN radio, or utilizing any of our social media platforms, welcome. This evening we're going to have some youth perspectives, and we have three youth parliamentarians with us. To my left, closest to me, is Miss Kerri-Ann Marrast, who is the representative for St. Andrew Northeast. Kerri-Ann, welcome.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And next to her, Mr. Akim B. Williams, St. George Northeast. Welcome, Akim. And probably a familiar face to you all because it's his second appearance on Beyond the Headlines, Joshua Andall, representative for St. Andrews Northwest. Josh, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
And I'm certainly excited to get a youth perspective on things that are happening in Grenada. But please allow me, before I even start, because we can have conversations, but our brothers and sisters in Jamaica are about to take in a rough ride. So I want us all to offer thoughts and prayers for their safekeeping. We know what the ravages of a hurricane can do. July 1st last year, we had our dose of Beryl. This is faster and slower, an oxymoron, in terms of Melissa, because it's only traveling at 3 miles per hour with winds up to 175 miles per hour. It's going to be a rough ride. So our thoughts and prayers to our brothers and sisters in Jamaica, and as it moves onward, it should slow down, less intensification, but our brothers and sisters in Cuba would likewise be impacted. So as we discuss, as we share, let us always keep our brothers and sisters to the north in mind. Josh, I want to just start off with you and just give our audience an overview as to the youth parliamentary system, what it really is about, what it's attempting to do. And I know you were fairly recently elected, all of you. So how long is your tenure? We're looking at 5 years, 7 years, or shorter than that. So just give the audience some perspective.
No problem. Well, I would start off by where you ended the tenure. I do know that there are some youth parliamentarians who wish the tenure was probably 5 years. However, our tenure is only 2 years, but we do have the option to be re-elected for another 2 years, and then it is capped at that. Okay. So youth parliamentarians who are currently serving within their constituency, they do have the opportunity to be re-elected, to run again in the next election. However, after that, they won't be able to run for office again.
So parliamentarians are probably leading by example with term limits.
I mean, I guess you could say that depending on your view on governance. But what is a youth parliament program? Essentially, it's literally youth in parliament. The youth were the ones who elected us. Individuals between, I think the cap of the age was probably 35, but from as young as 16, individuals were able to vote for us. We had to go out, we had to campaign, we had to have different events, and we were going up against someone else. So we had to really convince these youth that, hey, I am the one who is going to speak for you, represent for you within youth parliament whenever we are having debates. For example, a key debate would be the youth budget debate that we are having on November 26th. That is one of the areas that we would be representing the voices of the youth within our constituency, and by a larger extent, Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique. That's essentially the youth parliament program. The goal is essentially to provide youth with a voice directly within parliament when it comes to what we believe, and I'm saying we because we're a representation of the youth that voted for us, what we believe should be done, what our voices actually are, what we're saying, what we're feeling, where we want to go. That's the goal.
Okay, all right. And I know a lot of our audience would want to know, can youth parliamentarians be members of the existing political parties?
We can't be members of existing political parties. We can't.
Okay, so you cannot. All right. And I believe the part of the training of youth parliamentarians was to be paired with an MP. Has that, been operationalized in that you have a mentor, probably the MP from your constituency? Is that how it's working?
As it stands now, no, we currently do not have. We do have, I would say, individuals that we can reach out to, but as it's stated, one of the things that I won't say promised to us, but discussed when this was being laid out was that we were to have some sort of mentorship, but no, we currently don't have from a current or former MP. We don't have it.
Okay, all right. Grenada belongs to you. I heard a gentleman who was, or is, because he's still around, older than I am, pointing out to me that he has more years behind him than in front of him. And I would like, while we're not in control of life, I would like to think you, all three, have more years in front of you than behind you. And hence it's important to get your perspective, because the Grenada that we build today, the decisions that we make today will be about your futures, more so than anyone else. And the thing that is most debated in Grenada now is the request by the U.S. government to house a radar system at the Marrast Bishop International Airport. I believe there's also a renewed request to take in third country deportees from the U.S. Let's deal with the radar system first. Just what are some of the things we should grapple with, in your opinion, as we contemplate this request?
Well, allow me to posit that right now, Grenada, and as a result, any country that received a request from a country as powerful or mighty as the United States, I would say that they're in a dilemma, because we cannot deny the fact that if, as a country, as a nation, if you deny the U.S., I mean, we can't deny the fact that there may, I'm not saying there will be, but there may be some potential drawbacks to that, because again, it's called Uncle Sam for a reason, right? So I mean, there's a lot to be considered, and I think that is one of the major things that the government would need to consider. The potential drawbacks of denying it, and I mean, what are the potential benefits of having something like that on island for Grenadians, for Grenada? What are the potential benefits? Because I like to take into consideration both perspectives, and then I form an opinion of what is to be done. If I'm in that position, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have, of course, what's currently going on now. I believe they were in Grenada recently and had conversations with high-ranking police officials. I saw that happening. That's great. We're having discussions. We're understanding what exactly we're getting ourselves into, because we can't just go outright and tell them no out of emotion, out of how the majority of the Grenadian people may feel, because at the end of the day, the truth is that the feeling and logic most times should be separated. Because if our initial emotion is to reject them because what we may assume that their intentions may be, at the end of the day, the most logical thing to do may be to accept it, probably because of the potential benefits that we may get from forming such an agreement with the United States. So that's where I stand with it. I believe that currently I'm doing my own research to understand exactly what the request is, what the potential benefits could be to us, because it could be, again, that there are no potential benefits, but that's where I stand with that.
Okay. Akim, your thoughts on this?
So, in looking at the entire situation, I think we are in a pickle. And when I say a pickle, it's because we are forced to make sense of a scenario that we don't have all information on, and that's the reality. Right. That is concerning, because it means, as Joshua said, that any decision made without good information can be an irrational decision. However, the concerns, I think, that we are hearing, they are not unwarranted. I think they have merit in the concerns, and we possibly should watch for them. So we see what's happening in the region, and either way, if this goes south, because I think we are assuming the worst and hoping for the best, is what has been our approach. If this goes south, this is not going to be good for us or nor the islands in the Southern Caribbean. So I think we have to be judicious with this. I think we have to look at the data. We have to weigh it carefully. But then will come a point for us to make a decision. But but I also believe rather, and echo the sentiments that the region should remain a zone of peace, because we have everything to lose, every single thing to lose when all of this is over. We see what's happening in Ukraine, we see what's happening across the world, and lives have been decimated and devastated in a heartbeat. And how do you pick up? We've been through Hurricane Ivan, we've been through recently Beryl, we've seen what the COVID pandemic did to us. This is going to be a very difficult place for us. Right. So I would like to join in the advocacy that the region remain a zone of peace, but there will come a time for a decision. But I think there's still much that we don't know of the situation at hand.
You know, Kerri-Ann, Joshua mentioned something about an emotional response, and I get it. So we all have that knee-jerk response. How difficult it is for individuals, and this is because this is human, to, after your emotional response, take a deep breath, calm down, and say, let's wait. Do you think that this is the approach that we need to make as Grenada?
I think information informs your decision. So while you may have an initial reaction to something, the more you are aware, the better informed you are, and then you can make a logical decision. With that being said, regarding the issue, I would like to amplify a call being made right now by the Citizens for Constitutional Reform, right, which I'm a member of, Mr. Williams is also a member of, and it's a non-governmental civic organization. And essentially, this topic or this issue is one that challenges our survival, right? And what the CCR is clamoring for is a constitutional convention. Such a convention, I'll just read briefly here, would require the Grenada's response to national survival challenges to be decided not only by the government, because everybody's looking to the government for a response, but the CCR is saying that rather, the Constitution of Grenada provides that we can have a convention and establish a National Survival Council that would include parties from the government, opposition, trade union council, private sector, churches, and civic organizations, including civic organizations in the diaspora. So when you have all these people coming together who are more informed on these matters, then you can better make a decision based on logic, based on the data for our national survival.
Josh, that sounds fine. Quite often when we are dealing with international relations, a lot of things don't get into the public domain. A lot of things cannot get into the public domain. Yeah. So the call I get, do you see a call of this nature being practical in a circumstance like this? So yes, national survival, wide consultation for proper decision making makes sense. When we're looking at international relations, in subjects of this matter, where there'll be dissymmetry of information, can we have this type of consultations, bearing in mind the level of privacy and backdoor discussions that may be needed?
For this particular instance, I would, and I have to be very careful here, I would disagree. And I say that because while I understand probably the potential want or the need for it, at the end of the day, like you said, there's a level of sensitivity that comes along with something like this. And while we should have a say in the decision that's being made at this level, we cannot deny the fact that at the end of the day, there are higher level decisions that have been made without our consent, and no repercussions came upon us as a nation or as a region whatsoever. There are higher level decisions that have been made, probably diplomatic relations that we don't know about, that we've extremely benefited from. The only issue with this one, I would say, is that, like I mentioned above, there was just an emotional response to it, and that is where my issue would come in. If we are forming some sort of a council, we need to ensure that these individuals are qualified individuals in order to represent and make informed decisions, because there's a difference between someone being passionate about something and someone being qualified about something. We could have individuals passionate about citizens having a voice, but you're not qualified in the topic being discussed. By no means am I saying the individuals who propose this are unqualified. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that there's a level of sensitivity that comes along with this. While I would, if it does come up, I would support it. I don't think it's necessarily needed at this point in order to make this decision, because we have a government, we voted them in, we can't deny that. We have individuals. If we put our trust in the government essentially put their trust in individuals to come on board to help them to make these decisions. So if we put our trust in the government, we should trust that the government would understand that this is a level, this is a matter of national importance, and so they would need to make a decision that is not only good for Grenada as a nation, as an economy, but good for the citizens of Grenada as well.
Okay. Let's just go broad strokes, because heavy is the head that wears the crown. That's the government's decision. I mean, it's probably easier to be the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago at this point than the Prime Minister of Grenada, in my view. But what are, and I'm throwing this out to each of you, what might be a good reason to say no, and what would be a good reason to say yes? Because we'd have to weigh, and if we have to come up with a logical decision, it's pros and cons. So in your mind's eye, and Akim probably can take first stab at this, what would be a good reason to say no to the request? What would be a good reason to say yes?
So I jump at saying, and I'll start with no first, because I think that's where everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, that's where a lot of people are right now. I think a good reason to say no would be that if this does lead to some war or some level of increased activity, then we have everything to lose. A good reason to say yes is if that doesn't happen. If there is no war, and like I say, we don't have details, and if this is just an innocent thing to truly monitor drugs in the region, possibly this might be a good reason to say yes, because it might be beneficial.
Do you believe this has anything to do with drugs?
Sadly, it not necessarily.
Okay. All right. Kerri-Ann, good reason to say yes, good reason to say no.
And this time I'll maintain my position, because one needs to be well informed to make a decision on this. And this is a matter that's still being discussed. So I would not give a good reason to say yes or good reason to say no at this point. Let the discussions take place. Allow us to collect more detail, because the more you're informed, the more aware, and you can make a decision that you can stand on. So today I might say this is a good reason to say yes, but I may want to change my opinion later.
And certainly you have two good reasons for that. One, you are a parliamentarian, but two, I believe it's a woman's prerogative to change your mind. So that's
a woman's prerogative.
Yeah,
wow.
So you win twice.
Yeah. But I would just like to add that no man is above the law. We consider the Constitution to be our highest or most supreme law. And if we are in a pickle, if we are indeed in a dilemma, let's look to the Constitution to see what does it provide us with, and not dismiss it to say, okay, yes, we want people of this caliber, we want people to have a certain level of understanding. Let's not dismiss it outright and actually seek out those people who can advise on that level and utilize what the Constitution is providing, because we are in a dilemma, we are in a pickle. The Constitution is making a way for us to make a decision, an informed decision about this. So that's where I am. I wouldn't give a good reason to say no or yes at this point. I'm in a position where I want to be more informed, and I'm seeking out that information.
And I think what I'm hearing from you is that as Grenada, we need to assemble the best team possible to make the best decision for our country, right?
And this does not dismiss that we have a government of the day. This is us looking towards our Constitution, what it provides, what does our supreme law provides. It does not dismiss what the government of the day has to say, right? It does not dismiss what anyone else has to say, but this is something that is affecting national survival, our security. So indeed, if there are benefits, let's highlight those benefits. If there are negatives, let's highlight those negatives and then make a decision on it.
And I think what I'm hearing from you, because it doesn't matter whether it's this particular subject or something else. As Grenada, a small country as we are, it is important that we pull together our best minds to make decisions. So this is one, but it should be in every case.
Essentially, we should be a people who are forward-thinking and examine things that are presented to us. So we trust and believe in the government we would have placed in power to make certain decisions. But there may come a point in time where certain things weigh so heavy on us that we need to pay extra attention. And I think this particular instance is calling for the people of Grenada to pay extra attention and not just live it up to the government of the day.
Okay. Josh, good reason to say yes, good reason to say no.
I mean, I'm just going to keep it pretty simple here. I mean, a good reason to say yes would be, the potential the potential benefits that are not highlighted.
Well, let's say, if we're going to say yes, and if I'm preempting you here a little bit, it must be a negotiated yes.
Yes.
So the negotiated yes, we must say, well, you want this, therefore we want that. Yes. It's a negotiated yes. What are some of the things that we want? And this is your Grenada now.
Yeah.
So what is on your wish list for Grenada that could have you contemplate a yes?
I mean, and I believe I speak for many Grenadians when I say this, but easier visa process.
Easier visa process.
Easier visa process.
You're looking to escape Grenada.
But no, we have a high percentage of Caribbeans living in New York, and many individuals who are in Grenada would love the opportunity to go and spend some time with their relatives in the U.S. And by no means am I saying, give us the visa directly, just once you put it in, just give us.
Because I'm going to challenge you here a little bit. If we are giving up what the naysayers will say, part of our sovereignty, we're giving up land that belongs to us to house something that can be used as an instrument of war. But if we're willing to negotiate that away, it can't be for a visa to go to New York.
I 100% understand. However, you asked me personally, what would be one thing? But again, I'm not.
So continue on in terms of what type of what? I don't want to even place thoughts in your head. What would be on your wish list that can get you to contemplate a yes? And I'm going to come to everybody with this one.
Another one I would say would be, aid. Whether it's I would say speak specifically for healthcare. I would say aid for healthcare when it comes. I know we have a really good relationship with the hospitals in the U.S. because a large majority of our students from SGU, they have the opportunity to travel to either England or the States. But I would say, aid. That's one way. Another way would be aid in the form of scholarships for our students to be able to easily, and this falls under visa as well because we have student visas, for our students to be able to go over and pursue their studies so that they would be able to be more qualified so that they can come back and partake in these discussions so that we'd be able to make better informed decisions. But a good reason to say no as well would be, the main thing for me would be we don't know exactly what they want it for, because they can say they wanted to monitor one thing, however as at the end of the day, they have in the back of their head, they have, we were saying this, but this is exactly what we actually want, and we're not going to tell them because we're going to present this beautiful package to them, but we won't tell them what exactly we want.
And something that can be temporary could turn out to be permanent.
Something that can be temporary can turn out to be permanent.
Good reasons to say yes.
So, and a good reason to say yes, I will say, and it goes back to the negotiation, of course. I think in answering this, I would go on a limb and say that this is what most Grenadians expect. I think in us doing this, it shouldn't hurt us internationally. I think it shouldn't come back to bite us, nor should it put us in a position where Grenadians can be harmed. If that prerequisite is met, I think then there is ground to say yes.
Okay, what are some of the things that you would like to see in order to be a minimal contemplation for a yes? So
one, because we're seeing what's happening with the relationship with Venezuela and Trinidad, of course. That relationship seems to be in a row. One side is saying something, the other side is saying something. We've heard the conversation, we've seen it, we know the historical past. There has been some benefit from the people of Venezuela to Grenada, and as is often said by the Honorable Mia Motley, they are friends of all and satellites of none.
Right.
I think that must remain true for us.
And we recognize that Venezuela is also a friend of China, and China has done even more in Grenada. So that would be something from just leading from where you seem to be going. It's something that we'll also have to contemplate.
100%.
Okay. Kerri-Ann, if we get a brand new prison, is that reason to say yes?
Oh my, I don't think that's reason enough to say yes, but it's amazing how you circle back to the same question. I'm wondering if you're the politician. But in terms of negotiation, some things that can be considered, if it is indeed to monitor things like drug entering into the country or gun smuggling into the country, then and we can monitor that and put a close off on that, I would say that's a good thing to consider, because we don't manufacture guns, yet our gun violence is on the rise, right? We have a lot of people on island with guns that they're not warranted to have. So if we can did help with that, then that's one reason. I would also look to boost funding for our climate smart initiatives such as solar power, that sort of thing. Because once we can achieve our energy cost reduction going down, then our people can focus on manufacturing, our people can focus on exporting more goods, because we have a lot of natural products that we can turn into something great and export and bring in a revenue. So that's how I would look at it. If I'm negotiating, these are probably two things. There may be more, but I'll start with that.
I heard developmental projects, sustainable developmental projects, reduce energy cost. I think I heard no to prison. But okay, and this, again, as I said, heavy is the head that wears the crown, because these are the type of things that we actually do need to contemplate in order to make a decision that it will be in the best interest of Grenada, recognizing that we're part of a larger ecosystem, meaning the Caribbean, and how we treat with our neighbors will likewise be important.
Allow me to just posit as well that when making this decision and when contemplating the benefits, it is important to think about benefits that are unique. So benefits that we'd probably only be able to, like, what's something only America could give? Because a lot of the things that we may say, and that's one of the reasons why I said visa, because nobody else could assist with the visa process. For students, for visitors, nobody else could assist with that but the US. But when it comes to a lot of the other stuff, I mean, it can be easily funded through grants, through loans. It can be easily funded through initiatives or programs that are being spearheaded by UNICEF, UNESCO, by some of these OECS, some of these development organizations. So it's important for me to consider the benefits that would be unique to the United States, or benefits that we may be able to receive that are unique to the United States of America.
Right. And hopefully negotiate peace as well.
Definitely.
So we need to go to Venezuela and say, we're saying yes, and we're not your enemy, but work with us here on this one. All right. It's time for our first break. So we'll take our first break, and then we'll be back with the discussions, youth perspectives on Behind the Headlines.
You best. You can sparkle at $20,000, twinkle at $40,000, glitter at $60,000, shimmer at $80,000, or glow at $100,000. Use your Cherry Christmas loan for gifts, travel, family celebrations, or anything that makes your Christmas magical. Whatever your wish, there is a loan to light up your holidays. Apply today, and together we will make it a Cherry Christmas.
Are you longing to taste authentic, flavorful dishes from Thailand? Then look no further. Konthai, the newest restaurant located at the back of Galleria Mall top floor, is the place to satisfy your taste buds for Thai dishes that are well seasoned with fresh local spices. They offer a great selection of sumptuous dishes that will tantalize your taste buds. Visit Konthai today because the food is good, the ambiance is great, and the staff friendly. Available on Caribites and Yogo Grenada. For more information, call 456-0074 or visit konthaigrenada.com or stop by the new Galleria Mall, Grand Anse St. George. I'll meet you there.
Welcome to Karakou, small in size, rich in spirit. As you step off the boat, you're greeted by smiling faces and warm island vibes. Your adventure begins here. Need a cozy place to stay? The Mermaid Beach Hotel has been a favorite for years. Waterfront views, clean comfort, and located in the town. In Bogles, the Roundhouse Cottages offers rustic charm with a touch of elegance. A peaceful hideaway surrounded by nature. Prefer something private? Dowe Island Villas gives you space, sea breeze, and a home away from home feel. Wake up to the sound of waves and views that stretch for miles. We're ready to welcome you. When are you coming?
Sisson's got you covered this Christmas. From ceiling to floor, from outside to inside, Sisson's is formulated to bring out our true Caribbean flair. Get 20% off Sisson's Ceiling White, Easy Clean, and Sisson's Aquaflow paints. Plus, every Sisson's purchase is an entry to win the grand prize of a 65-inch TV. Just scan the QR code, attach a picture of your receipt, and you are entered to win. Promotion runs October 1st to December 20th, 2025. Sisson's, good looks that last.
Are you looking for a reliable, affordable, and customer-friendly pharmacy? Look no further than Hills and Valley Pharmacy, the nation's leading healthcare products and services provider. We are committed to serving you at convenient locations. Find an extensive and affordable selection of prescription and over-the-counter drugs and medical supplies at Church Street, Hillsborough, Karakou, Jubilee Street, Grenville, St. Andrew, near the bus terminal, and Halifax and Grenville Street, St. George. Our committed team is always available to offer valuable assistance for managing your health and wellness. Discover the additional benefits of our wholesale distribution on Halifax Street and our Medcare Center on Grenville Street, where we provide in-house physiotherapy, massage therapy, doctor consultations, and eye care services. Our commitment is to satisfy all your healthcare needs, including competitive prices, loyalty rewards, and special discounts for seniors. Contact us at 435-6904 and WhatsApp 535-4734. Choose Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Remember, your health is our business.
Welcome back, viewers and listeners. Youth Perspectives on Beyond the Headlines this evening, and we're having fun. And it's always wonderful to get the opinion of the people who Grenada belongs to now, not in the future, now. Another topic that has been debated extensively is the Age of Civil Legal Responsibility Bill. It was supposed to be tabled. There was a withdrawal for additional discussions. And I just want to get your perspective on this as youth parliamentarians. Kerri-Ann, I will start off with you. Just what is your opinion and some of the key issues surrounding this bill?
Okay, so to start off, I would like to re-emphasize that the Youth Parliament program is an independent one, regardless of which party is in power, which party is opposing. So our comments are directly linked to the voices of the youth, and it is not to be used for partisan politics, right? So
Right.
that said,
and it is unfortunate that you had to say it, but I appreciate that you said it.
Yeah.
So our viewers and listeners take note, right? We're not green, yellow, pink, blue. We're having youth perspectives, and they're sharing based on their views, their worldview on things Grenadian. Go ahead.
All right. Let me just say, when I campaigned, one of my pillars were on safe spaces. One of my other pillars were on advocating for prevention of abuse and more resources for victims of abuse. And in my research of the bill, in examining the bill, in discussions held with concerning the bill, in its current state, I do not support the bill. For varying reasons. One, changing the age of civil and legal responsibility and the insertion regarding sexual reproductive health and treatment, it's only an addition to the bill. But when you change the age, you have to look at the bill in its entirety, not just the insertion part. And I think that's where a lot of people are missing the mark, because they're only looking at the insertion and not the bill in its entirety. That's one, because the bill makes different provisions for when you're 18 or age of maturity, where you can own property. You know, you can own land, you can enter into agreements, loan and mortgage agreements, that sort of thing. And we really have to ask ourselves the question, do our 16-year-olds have the maturity or the capacity to enter into such agreements, right? Do they have the capacity to hold on a job at 16 and still go to school? And then it's also contradictory to other laws that we're looking to implement. We want to increase the school age to 18. If I'm in school and I want to own property and I have to hold on a job to pay a mortgage, how is that possible? When you change the age of civil and legal responsibility, you have to look at the bill in its entirety and not just the insertion. So that's one. And two, in many discussions surrounding the bill in terms of it providing access to 16-year-olds, I feel we speak from a point where 16-year-olds don't have access to sexual health education, they don't have access to treatment, and that is far from the truth. I don't think any doctor in their right mind would turn away a 16-year-old who comes to seek medical attention. There are other laws of provision. If parental consent is needed and where the parent fails to seek the best interest of the child, to get that child the medical intervention that they need, we have the Child Protection Authority, which the law provides for them to act as a guardian or to have custody of that child. So the better question to ask is the Child Protection Authority failing, and why is it failing? How can we strengthen that? Because I fear that this bill removes that level of guardianship that a minor should have when it comes to making major decisions such as this. So I'm 16, I'm still developing, my brain is not fully developed, my organs are still not fully developed, and I need to make a decision about my sexual reproductive health, right? And I can go to a doctor, the doctor could advise me, and I make that decision, still not at that maturity age that I should be. And that doctor, the more I think about it, the more my thoughts are swollen. And that doctor go ahead to administer whatever treatment I decide at that age in my limited capacity, my limited thinking, right? Without any repercussions. And we see that this bill is to protect victims of abuse who may be in abuse. If I'm at 16 and I'm using myself as an example, you know, but I'm being molested and I go to a doctor without question. At 16, he's not prompted to ask me any further questions to determine whether I am being abused or not, right? To see if I need any further support. He's not prompted to ask that, because I can go, get whatever treatment I need, and that's it. No questions asked, nobody's the wiser. It could be the perpetrator financing my medical bills at this point, because I don't need to go to my parents for money. The perpetrator can send me to the doctor to get myself checked out, to get whatever medication I need, and I go back home, living a cycle of being abused. The cycle continues. No one's the wiser, because there's not a medium now to protect me as a minor. Right, to alert that something is wrong. So I don't support the bill. for those reasons. There are more, but I allow my colleagues the opportunity to give their insight on it.
Akim, your thoughts?
So I happen to say that fortunately, unlike my colleagues, I am a clinician in practice, and one of the things that jumps out at me in this bill is that I have heard of consultation, but I have not been a part of any consultation, nor have I seen any consultation. My challenge with the bill is that I'm not seeing the data. And so as a clinician, if someone comes to me and I have to make a recommendation to them, X, Y, or Z, I must have data to say, okay, that this is the problem, and these have been tested and the interventions, because the bill serves as an intervention to a problem in actuality. Right. My concern, however, is I'm not certain that this intervention is addressing the problem. Secondly, I am a conservative of heart. I think young people have children as well, so we also get to have a say, because it's not just the older people who having a stake in this. And as a clinician also, we know it's quite common knowledge that the prefrontal cortex of the brain is not fully developed, which is that part that's responsible for reason. And so if we are going to give such a latitude to teenagers, I think that we may need to go back to the drawing board. There's one particular wording in the bill that is quite concerning to me as a clinician, and if we understand, it says that any medical or surgical treatment, and to me that says to me that you have it's inclusive but not limited to. Right. As a clinician, that is very, very dangerous territory to make for children. I do not subscribe to it. So I think we really have to go back to the drawing board. It would be good to see some data to see, well, okay, so if this is the amount of Grenadian in the population according to the Department of Central Statistics, what percentage of children are experiencing that? What are the data we're collecting that drove us to make the decision? If not, I do think that there is a problem. If there is a problem, then we have to be able to find evidence.
What I'm hearing from you is we need to tease this out a little bit to know what is the problem we're solving for.
Yes.
Well, we know the problem, but this is not the way to solve the problem. I can tell you some of the ways that we can solve the issue. One, whenever we have instances where victims are being abused, I'm going to go back to child protection again. How many resources is allocated to the Child Protection Authority so that they can function based on the law that they're given? Right. Do they have enough workers? Do they have enough funding? Do they have enough supplies to function based on the authority that the law has given them to? Two, many of these cases that involve victims of sexual abuse or any form of child abuse, they sit in our judicial process for years. Minors are now adults and they still have to go to court for cases that happen to them as minors. Right. So there's a heavy bottleneck and when in the judicial system, and when that happens, it makes people feel like justice is not being served. So why report an issue if it's just going to be a long, drawn-out process? I get fed up. Everybody in my family is fed up with the case. Case gets thrown out because persons are not showing up, because it's an emotional toll. You're inflicting more pressure on the victim. And I also dare to say that this bill is somewhat placing a responsibility on the victim for care as opposed to the people who should be caring for the victim. So when parents fail to care, you are saying to the child, go get care for yourself. You are saying to the child, there's no need to really report what's happening to you to any authority. Doctors, they could just help you and that's it. You deal with it on your own. So there's no need for a Child Protection Authority to intervene at this point. So that responsibility, which should lie with an adult to really protect the right of a child, is now being placed on the child. And I can't support the bill for those reasons.
I'm with you. Joshua?
Well, there's a lot to unpack from what my colleague said, and I'd like to preface everything I'm about to say by stating clearly to the audience and the listeners who would listen to this after that I'm by no means a professional in SRH, sexual reproductive health. I'm by no means a professional in any field that is close to it. So everything that I'm going to say would be be from what I've researched, and as a result, how I've been able to form my own opinion and understanding of the bill. And again, I can't speak to what the direct want or the direct issue that the government is aiming to solve with this, because again, we're not part of the government, we're not part of partisan politics. So I can't speak to that. So just to unpack a bit what my colleague said, Akim mentioned that there's no data. I'd like to provide some data. So there's a study done by UNICEF, I can't remember the exact name, but it was done in 2017, that showed that there's an increase in the number of youth having sex between the ages of 13 to 17. And that is, 13 is below the age we're trying to go, by the way, which is 16. Aside from that, there was a study done by the Grenada Women's Life Experience. It was called the Grenada Women's Life Experience Study, and it's online. It was done in 2018, that showed that 11% of girls below the age of 15, 11% of girls by the age of 15, has had their first sexual encounter. Aside from that, Grenada Women's Life Experience Study. Aside from that, we also have the same study collected some data and showed that 23% of boys and girls between the ages of 13 to 15 have already had their first sexual experience, with boys having had sex 3 times as much as girls between that age. The study also showed that 23% again of, I think it's women, and I'm saying women because it's not only focusing on girls here, but women experience some sort of sexual or physical abuse, and 30% of that was as a result of intimate relationships, and there was another percentage that I can't get off the top of my head that was outside of intimate relationships. And what these statistics, and these are just a few statistics that show that the issue is there. Now that we understand the issue is there, I'd like to go a bit broader and say that to Kerri-Ann, not only that the Child Protection Authority has failed, but I believe that we are now at this stage because we have failed as a society. And to me, there are different groups that make up the society.
Let me just intervene here. What I heard from Kerri-Ann is that the CPA is under-resourced.
Under-resourced.
Right, which is different from failing. Because if they're not resourced adequately, they can't do their job. But you don't want to be the victim blaming here,
yes.
Right? So go ahead, though.
Yeah, just to continue, thank you for that. To continue, I believe that a society is made up of different individuals. We have the schools, you have the government, you have the homes, you have the churches. I believe that every individual, every group that I just mentioned, at some point failed the youth when it comes to providing them with SRH, sexual and reproductive health services, or the knowledge that they need in order to make the decision. And that is why we're at the point now. That is why there's an increase, arguably an increase in the number of individuals having sex at a younger age, arguably an increase in the number of teenage pregnancies that we're having. I mean, we can't do anything about the fertility rates.
I'm not certain whether the data supports increases. The prevalence is there, probably always was there.
Yes.
We now have data being collected. We have increases in reporting. Yeah. I don't know that I can say that there being increases, but there is this problem. Yeah. The question is, are we solving for the problem? And that's what I was hearing.
I believe we are solving. I believe we are solving for the problem. Right?
That's my challenge. So I hear the data. I have to look at the data. Unfortunately, I think it would have been good that in the presentation of this bill that we have solid data just to justify. What I heard was I heard emphasis on the abuse of this bill. That this bill is solving for abuse, right. Because in my understanding, if we are trying to provide more education on sexual and reproductive health and we're trying to make services more accessible, then we can do that. That is not what I got. And my understanding that when you look at the rationale and the breakdown on the bill in the beginning, the preamble, we heard about sexual abuse, and we've been hearing it from the persons out there in the consultations. If we have so much, if it's such an alarming rate, let's see the data. I'll tell you you what's alarming. We hear about chronic diseases, that those are alarming, and of course those are still not getting the resourcing and the support that they need. I think this is a bandage on a sore that we are not sure will fix the problem. I think we can do more work with education. I think we can do more work with parents. Maybe it might mean we may need to resource the Child Protection Authority to continue to go out in the homes and educate parents. How do you talk to children? Because the reality is we're coming from a society post-slavery, that's a historical context, where we have single parents households with parents who growing up in house. So for example, my mom, her parent couldn't talk to her about that, so parents can only give what they have. And what we are hearing here, I wouldn't necessarily say the parent they failed. I say they gave within their capacity. I think it's up to us to now take the mantle and realize that this is a problem that we can solve for, but we must do it being conscious of the efforts made by those who did it within their capacity. Okay. And that would be my take on it. Okay.
I would like to jump in here by saying that I 100% understand that view, and I love the analogy of him saying that it's just a bandage on a sore. I would like to ask the question that, what if the solutions that are being presented now by my colleagues, what if they're too late? Because we have certain sort of treatment or certain types of treatments that, since something has progressed past a certain stage, that alone won't work. So what if we're saying we need to go out there, we need to educate the parents, we need to provide access, but what if it's past that point? And I believe that this, again, I can't speak directly to why they want this, but I believe that this is as a result of, that was probably one of the reasoning the government used.
And let me just ask a question to your question, in that there's no conversation. So the bill is not the place for it, for the perpetrators. If we're going to be dealing with molestation and the like, and I don't like using those nice words, if it's below 16, it's rape.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we're not going to address the rapist, but we're going to tell that sub-16-year-old or the 16-year-old you have access to reproductive health care, without going to your parents, then it's almost a recipe, and I think Kerri-Ann was pointing to that, for it to continue.
And I would like to draw, because if we're looking at consistency in how we intervene for problems, let's look at our recent gun legislation. What did we do for that legislation? We increased the penalty for the perpetrators. Right. And so I think that if when you talked about punishments and that just now, if we look at decreasing the motivation for it, increasing the penalty, how do we treat the perpetrators? How do we prevent people from doing it again? I think that is also a good place to start. Now, I'm by no means saying that this is a simple issue. Of course, it will require a multi-pronged approach, different areas, different stakeholders to come on board to solve the problem. But at this part in our history, I think the risk, and that's what I've been hearing, and that's what I'm seeing, the risk of this going south is something that, because it's not as easy to just go and say we're changing legislation. That takes time, it takes effort, and it's going to cost us. And so if we're paying for this as a country, we should know that this is going to give us the benefits that we imagine it's going to give us. Whereas we stand now, that has not been presented, is my concern.
All right, I want to switch, because let's get to something easy. I think it's November 26th. You guys are going to be debating the budget. Yes. Probably the budget might be the easy topic, because we've been wrestling.
I was a bit enjoying it. I had a bit more to say.
Okay, go ahead and make a last comment, and then we'll come over to the budget.
Just to make my last comment, I believe, probably I misread, but I believe Akim said in the bill as well that the amendment, because there's a bill and then there's the amendment. Right. The amendment provides for surgical procedures, but I believe I read diagnostic procedures, and there's a difference between diagnostic and surgical. If it is surgical, I 100% stand to be corrected. That's not a problem. So I just wanted to point to that. Probably I can go back and look at it. And added to that, I believe that it was mentioned coming to the ending that I can't remember exactly, but and I don't want to misquote him because he's right here. But I mean, we need to look at this from a larger perspective. I mean, we've been hyper-fixated on the perpetrators. We've been hyper-fixated on individuals who are affected as a result of sexual abuse, physical abuse. We've been hyper-fixated on that. But the bill has several possibilities or use cases for individuals who have not been sexually abused. Aside from that, we also have we can also focus on our boys, because I mean, at the end of the day, the boys are affected in this as well. And then coming out of that, we also need to take into consideration that regardless of, because one of the main arguments I've heard against this bill as well is that coercion, and it can allow perpetrators or individuals, rapists, as you said, it would allow these individuals to coerce our young people. By the end of the day, what I would like to posit this question to you, allow me to posit. What would you prefer? A young person being sexually abused and having to take what that perpetrator is giving them, compared to a young person being sexually abused and having the freedom and the liberty to go to the doctor and ask for certain things that they would need or want?
I think Kerri-Ann wants to respond.
I would chime in here. We speak again as though that they do not already have the freedom to go to a doctor, but there are measures in place where they can be guided, or they can have the support of an adult or a guardian, someone responsible. So we speak as though young people don't have that access. We don't have that liberty to walk into our medical centers and seek help. We don't have the liberty to walk in our hospitals and seek help. We do have that liberty. What we are saying is that this bill is allowing young people to accept any form of treatment regarding their sexual and reproductive health without any form of consent.
Without any form of parental consent.
Any form of parental consent.
Yeah. But parental guardianship.
Parental guardian. Mm-hmm.
So you can make the decision on your own. And I would also go further. If I'm looking at the bill also makes provisions for West Indies Associated States. That's a bill in its entirety. So ask yourself the question: what services are not provided in Grenada that can be accessed in one of our associated states? And can we hold any doctor, any person liable civil? And again, that's a decision for the judiciary, but we're putting it in a bill, right? That you cannot take any civil or criminal, hold them to any liability, right? So we talk about a bill again as if there's no freedom to see a doctor, there's no freedom to get support, there's no access to these things, but they are. We want to ensure that our young people are protected at every turn. So no, we do not want them to be sponsored by their perpetrators. And yes, there may be young people who are not being molested and need medical attention, but there is something called medical neglect by the parent. So they may not have been molested, but they need medical attention and they're not receiving it. Right? Again, the agencies or the bodies that we have established by law, Child Protection Authority, can step in. So what is restricting these authorities from working within the full confinements of the law that we have established for them? Resources. I would go back to say this again. Resources. These organizations need more resources. I would also go back to say we need stronger laws to deter perpetrators, right? We recently increased, same how we're making a bill for this, we made a bill for gun violence and we increase penalties. We can do the same, increase penalties for these types of crimes, as well as we need the judicial process to move faster. It is a deterrent from reporting when it's not moving fast enough because people feel like justice is not being served. So what is the point of reporting? Okay. Yeah.
So here we had a good advocacy for the Child Protection Authority, for legal aid and counseling, for the Grenada Planned Parenthood Association, for resources. You guys can thank Kerri-Ann when the budget is read for 2026 and you see increases on your bottom line. All right, it's time for a second break, so we'll take that break and we'll be back shortly.
Blue Limited. Visit us on the Lansopine Main Road or call 405-4818.
Brignon Miners, distributors for Johnny Walker, Smirnoff Vodka, and Campari. Giddens Healthcare Pharmacies, Haddon Plus, Dollar Savers Auto Parts, Rise and Shine Supermarket, and Glenelg Spring Water, proud partners of the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert, Sunday, November 9th, 5 p.m., Grenada Trade Center.
Asian Spa and Wellness Cafe, nestled in the serene surroundings of Le Phare Bleu, Calivini Bay, St. George, is the perfect spot to unwind and relax after a stressful event or when you wish to spoil yourself in the most comfortable and relaxing atmosphere. They offer many different massage modalities, including thigh hammer, washer and cupping, signature thigh deep tissue massage, also facials to depuff and tighten pores, deep cleanse full body, hair and nail treatments and more. Take a walk down to the cafe for authentic Thai breakfasts and delicious traditional dishes. Choose from our special mixed drinks, both hot and cold. Opens daily. Visit Asian Spa and Wellness Cafe today, Le Phare Bleu, Calivini Bay, St. George, because you will not regret you did.
Grenada. Exciting news. Oasis Pet and Garden has expanded. In addition to our existing location, we're now open at our new location, Melville Street, St. George's, now serving you at 2 locations for even more convenience.
At Oasis Pet and Garden, we bring you the best products at the best prices nationwide. Check out our garden department for the best quality Pro Mix potting soil, vegetable seeds, and seedling trays, cocoa peat, liquid fertilizer, granular fertilizers, and more. Our livestock and livestock products are the highest quality and the best prices in Grenada.
Back, viewers and listeners, of course, youth perspectives this evening on Beyond the Headlines. We're moving on to the budget. We are expecting the national budget to be read before the ending of the year, and the youth parliamentarians will have their first go on November the 26th. Josh, I would want you to just share some of the areas that you believe should be prioritized as we look at the 2026 budget. But just before that, viewers and listeners, you certainly can feel free to weigh in. 440-1252, that's the number if you'd want to contribute to our conversations. Josh, what are some of the areas you will prioritize as you formulate your 2026 budget?
So some of the areas I would prioritize would be 1, youth on and underemployment. That would be one of the main areas, providing access for youth to be able to upskill so that they would be able to get the necessary jobs that they need to get, because one of the main reasons they can't get these jobs is because they're a bit underskilled, that they don't have the necessary, I would say, the first thing they ask us for is experience. So that's one area. Another area would be healthcare. Improving the current healthcare facilities and access to the healthcare facilities and necessary healthcare. The word isn't coming to mind, but you understand what I mean. The service, the healthcare services that we need as citizens. Another area would be focusing on the repair that we have to do after Hurricane Beryl. I believe that is a significant area that we should focus on as well. Recovering from Hurricane Beryl, I believe we should put some resources, some funds into there. And another area would be something we just spoke on, would be education. But education when it comes to, well, not education, but funding to institutions that are failing. To echo what Kerri-Ann said, funding to institutions that are failing. Because the truth is there are several other institutions that are underperforming and not performing to the extent that they should be performing.
Okay. All right. We have our first caller. So good evening, caller. Welcome. Good evening, caller. Go ahead.
Go ahead, caller. Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hello?
All right. The lesson for callers is that you listen through your telephone, not the television or radio or laptop, so that you'll be able to hear us immediately. Caller, are you there? Go ahead. All right. We'd have to take that caller again in a little bit. So I got that. Akim, what would be your major areas that you'd want to see in the budget?
So some key areas for me would be healthcare, food security, agriculture being one of the challenges. This has been an age-old challenge that we are faced with, and we've been trying to make headway. I'm not so certain that we have been successful. We're not the only one. I think the region is in a similar bind, but I think that is a problem that we must address. I think when you look at our sustainable development, so many things. I took an opportunity and I looked at the goals, and I said, if you looked at them carefully, you can as much as draw a thread or a string through every one of them related to food security. Okay. I think every society, no matter from eons, that is all right.
We have another caller in line, so let's take that caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. I can barely hear you, but I trust that you're hearing me.
We are.
And good evening to the young folks with you. Very, very interesting and useful program. But I'm listening here and I'm dead scared about the future. I'm referring to the first question about the location of the military assets. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, we're hearing you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not hearing you at all. And it seems as though when you ask the question, the reasons for yes and the reasons for no, it all centered around things that we would get for doing it. It was all so transactional. And nothing seemed to bother on like not, helping someone to be an aggressor against a neighbor. The relationship between us and our neighbors, we need them. They have done us nothing, But everything seemed to be centered around what do we get? Free visas? A pet project funded? These are all transactional things. And if we go down that road as politicians of the future, we're going to put our country into serious danger. You see what's happening in Trinidad right now.
All right.
It's pretty transactional.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you.
I think I did touch on that.
Yes, I was just about to say that Mr. Williams did touch on, we want our nation to remain a zone of peace. We want our region to be a zone of peace. So I think that caller did not get everything that was said.
And it happens.
Just to reiterate again, no one here by any far stretch is some sort of qualified individual to speak on the topic. We're speaking based off of the research that we've done, the information that has been provided to us. And again, a lot of the times we don't have the information. We don't have all of the information to make the best decision. So we're speaking from what we understand.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, it's your perspective, and you don't have to apologize for your perspective. The caller shared theirs. All right. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, Mr. Dowe, and to the guests. I trust you hearing me because I cannot hear you from here.
We are hearing you, yes.
Much have been, and I don't want to touch on the things that have been spoken so far because the last caller commented on one thing I wanted to say about the hood, or certain things about, but I want to ask this question of these young people. Today, the people of today, and the people of tomorrow. Now, information abounds that Grenada has never really gained the political independence because of the documentation that we have in that of a constitution order signed by the monarch of Great Britain. That should tell you a lot as young people. I do not know if you studied the document or seen the document produced in 2002 by Nicholas Liverpool et al., a renowned jurist, known as Constitution Reform in Grenada. Some things to consider, where it stipulates crystal clearly that neither the Constitution of Grenada nor the Termination Order 1973 were debated in the Parliament and in effect continue to be imperial orders in council of the Queen's most excellent majesty. Question: what do you young people propose for a new constitutional architecture into the future of your country, or do you like it as it is? Your views, please. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you very much. All right.
So I'll jump on and say that, because you heard in the beginning, Kerri-Ann and I were actually a part of CCR, Citizens for Constitutional Reform. And we've come to understand that the Constitution, of course, is a living document, and the Constitution should represent the people. And so we hear the concerns, and we join in supporting that there needs to be some change.
Right.
And I must amplify the recent success of the CCR, which was the move to change the oath of allegiance to Grenada as opposed to your oath of allegiance to the king. And so I believe that there are strides being made. We understand that the Constitution must reflect the people and the society in which it serves. And we are part of a committee that believes that. And we hope to see many more changes in the Constitution.
Okay, thank you. We have another caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Good night.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, good night to you, Mr. Dowe, and good night to your panelists. I want to compliment these young people. Sitting looking at them, and they're doing a great job. I'm not sure if they're past 25. They look pretty young. I'm not sure if they're past 25. So in terms of the knowledge that some of the callers are calling and maybe asking questions, I'm not sure if they would be able to answer this question. But tonight, I just want to compliment them. They're doing a great job. You all look very nice out there, and continue to represent the young people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. On behalf of those who are not yet 25. We don't have another caller. I know you started, but let me just ask you, Kerri-Ann, in terms of your budgetary platform issues, in terms of where your focus would be.
Health, for one. Health has always been a major concern. So we need more funding pushed there. I would also say we need more funding in terms of climate smart technologies, to better prepare for our survival after hurricane, because this is the climate, this is the region, this will affect the region most, and as well as a push for education in the sense that we need to train our young people to start thinking to become their own bosses, become entrepreneurs opposed to job seekers, because there are many things that you can endeavor. And there are many passions, and often our young people figure that out too late. So in education, I would push the narrative to become your own boss.
Let me just ask something, because just the themes that you touched on. Healthcare. Project Polaris is a major thrust by the government. What is your perspective on Project Polaris? What are some of the things that are needed in order for it to be successful? Yes.
I'll jump on.
We have another caller, so let's take the caller and then the clinician will get to speak. Good evening, caller. Welcome. Caller, you're live. Listen on your telephone, not the television, please.
Hello?
Go ahead, we're hearing you. That caller would have to call back.
Well,
I would jump to say
I want to ask the question, but I see the host is still talking.
If you look at our budget, and I took an opportunity to do a brief scroll through, and I've realized that when you look at healthcare, secondary care has predominantly received the largest part of our budget. When we look at the current health situation in Grenada, what we're seeing is that chronic non-communicable diseases are actually accounting for the top 10 leading causes of death. Right. Not just death, but disability. Right. And whenever there's a disability, it means that the extra health services are required to now treat those disabilities. Unfortunately, where we don't see enough effort is in diversifying the health professionals available within the primary health care.
Let's come back. Let's come back to that. Good evening, caller. Welcome.
Go ahead now.
Yes, please, caller. Go ahead.
Yes, so I'd like to say how impressed I am with the young people, as somebody mentioned a while ago. And
Caller, please go ahead. We are hearing you. Okay, so we'll have to come back to the caller. For those of you calling in, once the phone is answered, only listen to the telephone, please. There is a delay on your television. So we're ready for you, but you're listening to the television, you don't recognize that we're ready for you, okay? So the diversification you are going, Akim, of primary healthcare services, for example.
For example, we're talking about mental health. When we look at stress and its relation to chronic diseases, we understand that stress creates an environment where the body is so inflamed that things like blood pressure, diabetes are cause of concern. We're looking at persons who as they're getting older, who are having things like arthritis. We may not hear a lot of it here, but working in the community, we also realize there's a challenge that in many ways inhibits the functional ability of that person to maintain and be active. So we're talking about physiotherapists, not just at our hospitals, but also within our community centers. We talk about therapists, mental health professionals. We talk about diversifying nursing professionals. That is a big problem. Our nurses are leaving. There must be a conversation. Nurses are young people like ourselves who are coming into the system.
But we are contracting nurses from Ghana.
And that's a challenge. As I remember, as a student, I had colleagues who were coming out, and of course, at that time, you would remember, we were not taking in posts within the public service. And quite a bit of our nurses for a while were out of work. And the reality is, after you've invested time and you've tried to build yourself, you can't just sit home. And if you study to be a nurse, it's not like you can just see you going and going to sewing. And so I think there must be a conversation. I heard calls for our nursing school. Our nursing school was doing very well in terms of the quality. But now we have to ask ourselves, what is the cost to produce one SG nurse? I think it's a very good program. But if we understand that we need more professionals and we need to keep our professionals, I think we have to go back to the drawing board. As a young person advocating for young health professionals, I want to say that it mustn't appear that when we've gotten to the height of our careers in healthcare, that the benefits that we received, that when we get to the top, we pull up the ladder. I think young people are not crazy. We are actually asking for some of the same benefits that we're seeing those who've retired now that they've had to have enjoyed. Building houses and being alive is much difficult now, and so we want to serve. And if you talk to a lot of nurses who are my age, they want to serve, and people are going because the assurance is, if I go, I can come back and build a life for myself and for my family. We have to be able to have a conversation and meet halfway.
It's respect in terms of that initial investment, but I also want to take you up and support the diversification of training among our nurses. So we sometimes not recognize that there are as many specialists in nursing as there is for being a physician. And outside of midwifery, there are very few specialized nurses in Grenada. I will go community health. So our health clinics are staffed by nurses, not necessarily trained in community health. And that type of investment I'm hearing from you and diversification of the primary care is important.
We need more. If you go to our medical stations, you'll realize a lot of our medical stations, they're not adequately staffed. And if we must treat with the issue of primary health care, we have to understand that much more. Our medical stations, they must be reimagined. Yes, they were built in a time when, of course, the needs were much smaller, but now we're growing. And I like to say that we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
You all mentioned healthcare, so national health insurance, because we had to pay for it.
That is the biggest.
What are your thoughts? What would be your platform when it comes to something like national health insurance?
So national health insurance, I think, is essential because that's the reality. When we look at the average income, and let's look at minimum wage. When someone brings home a minimum wage of $1,200, talk about food, talk about bills, what can go into paying for one? The reality is that our system is subsidized, and so we have to have a mechanism to pay for it. Of course, it seems as though we have been delayed in that regard, but we have to move steadily with it because.
What are your ideas in paying for? And this is open to all of you. I know the clinician jumping in here, but in paying for that beautiful concept of Project Polaris, how do you imagine Grenadians being able to access what will be built?
Well, I would say by no means am I. That's why I'm giving my brother here the entire flow, because I'm no professional, especially when it comes to anything to do with public health. I do understand the surface of the project, and I do believe that there is potential for something beautiful for Canadians here. But that is something that I have not researched enough myself to be able to give an informed decision. Because whenever I like to say something, I like to say it and give facts.
My challenge to you is, seeing that this is a major thrust of government, Mr. Representative, you probably should pay some attention to this, because we may very well find in the 2026 budget quite a lot of monies will be allocated to ensure the delivery of Project Polaris. Any thoughts?
My concern, I support it. I believe it's needed and it will do great things for our country. But my concern right now is our current healthcare system. How are we preparing our current nurses and doctors to meet the expectation that is being driven out by Project Polaris? Right? So that's my concern, and it goes back to what Akim was saying, diversification. Because when we have this big expansion, are we now going to still be importing more people? Or do we want our people to come home? Or do we want our people here to be able to work in the fields that this project would open up for them? National health insurance. I may become a spokesperson here for the NIS at this point, because I work in the NIS, and my brother likes to say like something that they convert me. But honestly, I have seen the benefits of NIS towards our aging population, and that is the crux of the matter. When you are young and you're working and you see the amount of money coming out in your paycheck, you're grinding your teeth. But when you can no longer work for whatever reason and you have that something coming in, I can tell you how many pensioners are grateful. And it sometimes pains me when I see persons coming in and they're of a certain age, they can no longer work, but they have not contributed. They have nothing to get, and they're coming in with that hope, because you're probably losing some of your mental capacity as well at that age. So you know when you're young days you were supposed to pay, but you didn't, and then you come in for something and then you don't have anything to get. So with the national health insurance, I see the advantage of it, especially for persons who otherwise may not have been able to afford on their own. But you are there investing gradually over the years, a small percentage, and it adds up, it counts for something, because the little that you invest today is going to reward you bigly tomorrow, especially when it comes to your health. As when you're down and out and you cannot do anything for yourself, you are going to be grateful that you invested.
Joshua, you quite early in terms of your first presentation on the budget spoke of unemployment and underemployment. I was at a session last week, an education summit, and one of the presenters suggested that in Grenada, 20% of young men and 28% of young women are neither in employment, education, or training. And that's a big number. The youth unemployment, of course, is more. The general unemployment rate is about 7%, but youth unemployment is larger. What type of interventions will you recommend and monies be spent to ensure that we have shrinking youth unemployment and certainly reduced underemployment of our young people?
Yeah, so for me, I would start by saying I believe that we need to understand, firstly, before we allocate, we need to understand what are the emerging areas or the emerging sectors that are coming in the future in order to properly prepare our youth to be able to take or, get jobs in these specific sectors. Because, again, if we're saying that, let's say, for example, hypothetically speaking, one of the arguments is that we just don't have enough jobs to give our youth. Why not just adapt to a certain certain sector, for example, artificial intelligence, that is new and emerging, and as a result of that, see how we can add it into our economy so that our youth would be able to get jobs. That's one way. Look at the emerging or new sectors or industries that are coming up all over the place, all over the world. Validate them, do some research, and then understand, is this something that we can bring to our youth so that we can educate them so that they would be able to find a job and get some sort of income coming in. Another way is, I know the current government, I understand that they have tried when it comes to fostering entrepreneurship. I'm a big fan of entrepreneurship. One of the first ways I made my first dollar outside of my mother giving me was, being an entrepreneur, creating websites for individuals. So I understand the power it has, and I understand the power and autonomy it can give to other individuals who step into that. Another area is, I spoke on it, I said that I believe that we need to upskill, and it kind of ties into the first point, but we really do need to upskill our youth, because I had a conversation with a few managers, and one of the main reasons that and I would argue that some youth are actually unemployable, is because they don't have the etiquette, or the necessary etiquette that is needed to operate within a workspace. And by no means am I blaming anyone for this, but it's just an issue. It's soft skills, and it is an issue, and that is one of the areas we really do need to fix if we're looking to fix and underemployment. And another area would be, and it ties into the first point as well, when I spoke to targeting and tapping into the new and emerging sectors, I believe that there are current, I would say latent opportunities currently within Grenada, within our economy, that we should tap into. And I say latent because we haven't really tapped into them to the potential that we really can or really should. You're suggesting
that we have not maximized on our nutmegs, we have not maximized on our cocoa, we have not even attempted to reimagine, I'm going to segue into our tourism sector, which is our largest foreign exchange earner, but there probably might be more that we can do, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, definitely. I agree, because there's something that the OECS is doing. It's called the OECS SKIP project, Skills and Innovation Project, and they're essentially trying to integrate skills, not only hard skills but soft skills within the curriculum, so that youth can be able to learn, so that it will increase their potential to get a job. And that's extremely important. And that, the nutmeg, the agriculture, it's something that we have not maximized. I believe that the field or the career of agriculture is just seen as something that is taboo. It's seen as something that you shouldn't get into. But at the end of the day, it's something that if we maximize, and if we really tap into and invest in it, and not only, I'm using agriculture as an example, but I'm speaking broadly, all of the sectors that we have that are latent at this time, if we really tap into them, I believe that youth would be able to have an opportunity to earn a dollar, in colloquial terms.
Kerri-Ann, technology in agriculture for food security, and certainly secondary products coming out, is that a thrust that you would advocate for?
Definitely, and it's something that young people actually speak about. There is an interest for agriculture, I think maybe the older heads sometimes still have the perception that young people are not interested in agriculture, but they are. We just want to see more technological advancements in agriculture. We actually do want to see a lot more of that.
And sometimes we don't recognize agriculture is a science.
It is.
And we need to embrace it and treat it as such.
And I would like to agree with you. Because the reality is that it is a science. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if our practice of agriculture is science-based. Sometimes it feels as though when you're cooking, you put a little of this, you put a little of that, and that's what we're having some of the challenges. I would like to support the topic of technology. I think it's the issue that we have, and we have to understand the historical context of agriculture. Young people grew up in a generation where they understood slavery, and they saw the benefits. So yes, our parents can say they brought the nutmeg and the cocoa and stuff, and it gave us the ability to have what we have today. But the reality is that was agriculture in a different way, because growing up as a child, I never associated agriculture necessarily to food, because I grew up in a farming community, and my grandparents were really and truly agriculture. The height of agriculture was nutmeg and cocoa, and that was what brought the livelihood to the household. And so now we have to change the conversation. And so we heard about technology. There's things like hydroponics, aquaponics, and these are technologies that that if you look as close as Trinidad and Tobago, they are making successful comebacks and they're actually getting enormous buy-in. Think of things like precision agriculture, is something that you may not hear about at all. We were looking at how do you use drones and sensors, information communication technology to be able to determine, okay, we're planting this land, how do you create spatial imaging of it? And young people are going into these areas in IT in different areas, but we have to find a way to niche it back to what we need.
Recognizing that you can apply, where it is your biology, your chemistry, your physics, your IT to agriculture.
Correct is right.
Right.
Correct is right. You know, so I think, especially given the fact we're talking about technology, our vulnerabilities to climate change.
Right.
We've had one of our most significant droughts in the last 12 or 14 years, I think it was, and that in itself, farmers couldn't irrigate their crops. When a situation like that happens to us, how are we supposed to feed the population? You know, so we have to be, because the evidence shows that things like hydroponics use at least 90% less water. Right. So if we're talking about utilizing technology, if we're talking about smart climates friendly, if we're talking about knowing that a hurricane is coming, if something comes, what can I do with my crops? You can easily move a system and put it on the inside versus having to go and replant an entire field of trees that's falling down. So we have to be able to diversify, and I think if we can communicate agriculture in a way that resonates with young people, we have to have a conversation. I don't think we have enough of those conversations, and it feels as though these conversations happen in certain corners. So if I'm an existing farmer, I have the information, I know what the benefits are. But the youths like me who might be interested in going into farming, what is the access to capital? What is the access to land? Not everybody has family to leave land for them. We have estates. How can we lease land out, land tenure for young persons? How can we then say, okay, we're giving you concessionary loans, we're going to give you the land, give us an idea, and this is what you can do. Utilize the technology. How can we guide the framework to encourage young people, make it easier? A young person from my constituency met me and said, you know, she's very into farming, you know, but she doesn't have the access to land, doesn't have the access to resources. So if we're talking about persons becoming their own boss, agriculture, time immemorial, has proven to be an approach that young persons can take to make a livelihood.
Okay. We're out of time, so I'm going to just take some final comments. So you can speak on anything you so desire, whether it's on the budget or just a youth perspective on a national or international level. Joshua, I will start with you. Akim, unfortunately, I'll come back to you because ladies always have the last word.
I'll remember that when I get into my marriage. So for me, I would just like to re-emphasize the importance of tackling under and unemployment within the 2026 budget. Of course, this is something that we're going to be debating on November 26th, and ironically November 26th for next year, 2026.
Right.
But I would like to emphasize the importance of focusing for the government to currently focus on under and unemployment, modernizing our current agricultural sector, and also focusing on adapting and accepting the new and emerging industries and sectors to be able to benefit the economy of Grenada.
Okay.
I would like to add, I think we've heard the challenges that we see with underemployment. I think we have, as a society, we've built a system, and we hope that system is going to make us into a productive society. Unfortunately, the output isn't necessarily showing that it's doing that. I would like to make a special call for more professionals when it comes to persons being able to deal with ADHD, persons being able to deal with autism spectrum disorder within our schools, and also a call for enhanced second opportunity programs. We see it like the program for girls, Elevate Her, and the one for young men. Those are very skills based. But I'm also believe, because I also got a second opportunity, and I know that we are very pro skill, but I also think if given the chance, there are a lot of young persons who are in the unemployable category. If we are able to reintroduce programs where they can go back and get the same English and maths, and so, because people, especially boys, I had a conversation with a past principal from Trinidad. She was a relative of our past Minister of Education, Ms. Bernadine, and she said her years of experience, boys learn differently. Men are the concern that we're hearing in our society. If you're able to find some way to reintroduce, because some of them are actually coming back and saying, you know what, I didn't understand it then, but with life and the experiences, they're getting it. I think we also need to provide opportunities for them to get a comeback as well, so that regardless to where they are, it doesn't feel as though that all is lost and the only hope is to go on the street.
Okay.
So,
Kerri-Ann?
All right, my contribution is going to be brief because, the men would have touched on a lot of things that I am in agreement with. Akim did share that, he has not been a part of the communication, and it struck me because a lot of times we have discussions that are very important to our society, and we have those discussions at a time that is not necessarily convenient for the young people of the day. And I use the word convenient loosely because we are expected to work from 8 to 4, and you have a lot of these major important consultations happening during that same time. I'm so grateful we can be here today at 8:30, and that is the reality of life. While we are asleep, some people are awake. While we are awake, some people are asleep. And I think that we need to be more mindful of that as a progressive society, that we need to be able to function around the clock and make ample provisions for everyone to be involved and have a say-so. That's pretty much it for me. I think, the entire discourse touched on a lot of things of importance. So in case anyone missed this, I hope they will be able to go back and view it. It was a very important discussion. And I'm just grateful for an opportunity to make our voices heard as young people. I don't think we touched on projects, but I would like to say one that I have upcoming.
Yes, please. So I will go some extra time because you each should have an individual project. So yes. Go ahead and touch your project. I'm sorry.
All right. So in December, I would be hosting a retreat for teen parents, teen moms and dads. It was going to be a retreat, relaxing setting where you can come and be informed, have your concerns be heard from various professionals. You can have a very enlightening conversation for your current situation, and to know that there is life beyond the current journey that you have right now.
Where and when?
That is to be determined.
Okay. So
right? But I just want to throw it out there so that person
in December, look forward to it.
In December, look forward to it. So if you're a teen mom or a teen dad, sign up for the opportunity to be a part of a wonderful experience. And of course, it's Christmas, so we will be giving away something special for you and the children.
Looking out for the Sorella.
In St. George Northeast, and I'm actually partnering with a few of my ambassadors in some other areas. We are looking to roll out our urban gardens project. We talk about food security, we talk about technology, and so we are doing it a little different. We are piloting this in 3 schools within the Northeast, and we might extend it out as the resources are available. And what we're doing is that we're giving schools some grow bags. We're also going to give them some solar drip irrigation kits, and so we're solving a lot of problems with that. We're solving water use efficiency. We're also solving preparedness. A hurricane comes, what do you do with your food? Let's say you have some vegetables growing, you are able to put them inside. Let's say that hurricane lasts 3 days, your plants probably won't die if you can water them, and you can easily put them outside and you can have them grow. The aim is that we understand that school nutrition programs are supporting the health of children, and so the aim is that in working along with the 4-H clubs, that these produce and so produced by the schools can go directly into the schools.
Okay, good.
For me, my main 2 projects that I have coming up are focused on climate change and health, to be specific. One is a project that I got through that I'm doing through funding from the Pan American Health Organization as a result of being a former CARICOM ambassador. That would be essentially targeting the secondary school students, forms 1 to 3. I'll be trying to go to all the secondary schools in the constituency of St. Andrew. So of course I'd be collaborating with the other constituents of St. Andrew, other youth representatives of St. Andrew, to basically teach them about climate change, what it is, and specifically about climate change recycling and how it affects our health, because there's an interlinkage that we oftentimes don't touch on. And the other one that I'm going to be rolling out starting next week would be the project called EcoFit, which is in collaboration with the Ashley Lashley Foundation out of Barbados. And we would be going to primary school students, grades 3 to 4, and we'd be teaching them about the 5 hours of recycling. And once we do that, we'd be implementing, a nice little project where they can basically use what they learned throughout the sessions and create something from recyclable materials. And then once they do, we have a ceremony, give them a little award, and try to put it throughout the community where they are, so that other individuals would be able to see it.
Wonderful. Mr. Joshua Andall, Mr. Akim B. Williams, Kerri-Ann Marrast, thank you so very much for sharing your perspectives. It was indeed a joy having you on Beyond the Headlines. And to you, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for giving up part of your Monday evening for this enlightening discussions with our young MPs. Look forward to being with you once again in the next 6 days, 22 and a half hours. Prayers and thoughts to our brothers and sisters in Jamaica. Have a good evening. See you next week. Take good care.